Hey there, history buffs and entertainment enthusiasts. Did you know that amidst the chaos of the First World War, there were some groundbreaking firsts that changed the course of history forever? Today, we're diving into the trenches of history to uncover 10 important firsts that occurred during the First World War. From technological advancements to societal shifts, get ready to be amazed by the pivotal moments that shaped our world. The First World War was a war of innovation. Advances in weaponry and military technology provoked tactical changes as each side tried to gain an advantage over the other. Major innovations were made in manufacturing, chemistry, and communications, while medical advances led to the improved treatment and evacuation of battlefield casualties. Here are 10 important firsts that happened during the First World War, the effects of which can still be felt today. Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's delve into the heart of the matter. First war fought on land, air, and sea. The First World War was unprecedented in scale. It was the first war to be fought in 3 dimensions: on land, at sea, and in the air. First air attacks on British civilians. Approximately 4,800 British civilians were killed or wounded as a result of German air raids during the First World War. The introduction of aircraft into combat left soldiers and civilians vulnerable to air attacks for the first time. The first of these raids on British civilians occurred on the 19th of January 1915, when giant airships called Zeppelins dropped bombs on Great Yarmouth and King's Lynn in Norfolk. Raids on London followed throughout 1915. First widespread recognition of shell shock. Shell shock was the term used to describe the psychological trauma suffered by servicemen during the First World War. This trauma is not unique to the First World War, but it was during this conflict that it first came to be recognized by medical professionals and the public. This footage, taken from 1916's Battle of the Somme, shows a wounded and dazed soldier being led to the advanced dressing station. First large-scale use of triage by British forces. Triage is the system of categorizing casualties and prioritizing their treatment. It was developed during the Napoleonic Wars and first applied systematically during the American Civil War, but it was not until the First World War that the British adopted it on a widespread basis. A wounded soldier would be taken through a series of aid posts, dressing stations, and hospitals where he received different levels of medical care. Another significant first was the introduction of plastic surgery to treat soldiers' injuries. This groundbreaking medical advancement not only saved countless lives but also laid the foundation for modern reconstructive surgery. Intrigued yet? Stay tuned for more eye-opening revelations as we journey through history together. First major use of poison gas. Gas, a type of chemical weapon, was first used on a major scale by the Germans in 1915 during the Second Battle of Ypres. The British first used poison gas during the Battle of Loos, pictured here, but in some sectors the wind blew the cloud back into the British lines. Death rates from gas were relatively low, about 3% on the Western Front, but the physical effects could be excruciating and it remained a pervasive psychological weapon. Since the First World War, there have been many international laws and arms agreements intended to ban the use of chemical weapons, but they remain a controversial part of modern warfare. First compulsory military service in Britain. Before the First World War, there had never been compulsory military service in Britain. The first military service bill was passed into law in January 1916 after the number of volunteers for the armed forces had begun to dry up in the second half of 1915. From March 1916, military service was required of all single men in England, Scotland, and Wales aged 18 to 41, except those who were in jobs essential to the war effort, the sole support of dependents, medically unfit, or those who could show a conscientious objection. Further military service laws expanded to include married men, tightened occupational exemptions, and raised the age limit to 50. The first use of tanks in combat. Tanks were first used on the 15th of September 1916 during the Battle of Flers-Courcelette, part of the Somme offensive on the Western Front. Early tanks were slow and unreliable, but they were also new and imposing. The tank proved to have a significant psychological effect on opposing infantry. By mid-1918, tanks were a standard element of British warfare. This film clip shows an unarmed Mark IV tank used during training later in the war. First British women in military service. British women entered military uniform for the first time during the First World War. Women wanting to assist the war effort began to push for their own uniformed service as early as August 1914. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, WAAC, was established in December 1916, after a War Office investigation showed that many jobs done by soldiers in France could be done by women. In April 1918, the WAAC was renamed Queen Mary's Army Auxiliary Corps, QMAAC. The Women's Royal Naval Service, WRNS, was formed in November 1917, and the Women's Royal Air Force, WRAF, was set up on the 1st of April 1918. In total, over 100,000 women joined Britain's armed forces during the war. The first widespread use of flamethrowers. The First World War saw the first widespread use of both fixed-mount and portable mechanical flamethrowers. Reports first appeared in early 1915 after the Germans deployed the weapon against French forces near Verdun. The British and French began developing their own models, including the Livens Large Gallery Flame Projector. This massive machine measured over 15 meters, 50 feet, long and had a range of over 30-40 meters, 100,130 feet. Flamethrowers were particularly effective as a terror weapon and would become a common feature of warfare in the 20th century. First, dedicated camouflage units. Concealment and deception have always had some part in warfare, but during the First World War, the practice became systematic. In 1915, the French army became the first to create a dedicated camouflage unit. The word camouflage came from the French verb meaning to make up for the stage. Its practitioners, many of whom were artists, were known as camouflages. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our captivating content. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the more you engage, the more you'll help us bring you more fascinating insights like these. Until next time, stay curious.